In this video, we will be discussing about the mammalian heart. I am Sahasra Tilakaratna. I am a fourth year medical student at University of Sri Jagannathpura. So within this video, we will be discussing about the anatomy of the heart and blood flow through the heart. So before discussing about the anatomy of the heart, first you need to understand why do mammals need a heart and why do we need a heart. So mammals, so what are the examples for mammals? Humans, cows, dogs. So animals which produce milk belongs to mammals. So before talking about the structure of the heart, you have to have an idea why do these animals and us need a heart. Within the animal kingdom, there are some animals who do not need a heart. So why is that? As an example, planaria, hydra, these kind of organisms do not need a heart because they receive oxygen and nutrients into their cells by simple diffusion. But if we consider the mammals and humans mainly, we are made up of billions of cells, right? So our bodies are made up of billions of cells. So our body cells need oxygen and nutrients for their survival. So when we inspire, oxygen get into our lungs, and when we eat food, by digestion within the gastrointestinal system, these nutrients are absorbed into the blood. So these absorbed nutrients and oxygen must be distributed and supplied to our body cells. So as our bodies are very large, so our bodies are made up of billions and trillions of cells, the simple diffusion is not enough to supply all these nutrients and oxygens to our body cells. So because of that, there are tube-like structures within our body. These are called blood vessels. So these blood vessels carry blood around the body, and within blood there are nutrients and oxygen, and there are some minerals, vitamins. All these nutrients and oxygen are important for survival of our cells. So as we know, cell is the structural and functional unit of human body. So we need to provide these oxygen and nutrients to our bodies, but it cannot be done by simple diffusion because we are large organisms and we have billions of cells. So because of that, blood is required to supply all these nutrients and oxygen to our body cells, but there should be a driving force of blood to flow through these blood vessels. So as I told you, there are blood vessels within our body. These are tube-like structures which carries blood. So there are two types of blood vessels, arteries and veins, and we will talk about this later. So there should be a driving force to blood flow through these blood vessels. So what is this driving force? Actually, this driving force is by pumping action of the heart. So now you can understand blood is important for supplying of nutrients and oxygen to our cells, and but blood to flow through these blood vessels, there should be a driving force. So this driving force is produced by the pumping action of the heart. So that is why we need a heart, and all these mammals need a heart, because to blood to flow through blood vessels, there should be a driving force. That driving force is produced by pumping action of the heart. Alright, so that is the first thing that you need to understand. And then, as I told you, there are two types of blood vessels within our body, arteries and veins. So what are arteries? Actually, arteries carry blood away from the heart. So most of the time, arteries carry blood away from the heart, and arteries contain mainly oxygenated blood. Oxygenated blood means blood within the arteries carries oxygen. Oxygen saturation of arterial blood is high. So venous blood, if we consider the veins carry blood towards the heart, and veins contain deoxygenated blood. Alright, so within veins, oxygen concentration is very low. But if we consider arteries, it carries blood away from the heart, and oxygen saturation within the arteries are very high. So these are the main differences of these arteries and veins. So but there is one artery in our body which carries deoxygenated blood. So as I told you, usually arteries carry oxygenated blood, but there is one artery in our body which carries deoxygenated blood. So similar to that, usually veins carry deoxygenated blood, and there is one artery in our body which carries oxygenated blood. So if you know that, comment below, and I will explain those at the end of the video. Alright, so let's dive in. Let's discuss about structure of the human heart. So basically, human heart or mammalian heart consists of 4 chambers. So in mammalian heart there are 4 chambers. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so these are the 4 chambers of the mammalian heart. So there are upper 2 chambers and lower 2 chambers, and there is a septum separating left side of the heart and right side of the heart. So this is the left side of the heart, this is the right side of the heart, and there is a septum in between. Alright, so there are 4 chambers, 2 upper chambers and 2 lower chambers. These upper 2 chambers are called atria. Upper 2 chambers of the heart are called atria, and lower 2 chambers of the heart are called ventricles. Upper 2 chambers are called atria, lower 2 chambers are called ventricles. So if you consider these atrium on the left side, that is called left atrium. Atrium on the right side, that is called right atrium. So upper 2 chambers of the heart are called atria. So atrium on the left side, that is called left atrium. Atrium on the right side is called right atrium. So similar to that, these lower chambers are called ventricles. So ventricle on the left side is called left ventricle. Ventricle on the right side is called right ventricle. So these are the 4 chambers of the heart: right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle. Other than these 4 chambers of the heart, there are heart valves. There are 4 heart valves, and there are related blood vessels, arteries and veins. So we are going to further discuss about these related blood vessels and these mitral and all these valves while discussing the blood flow through the heart. Alright, so now we are going to discuss the structure with blood flow through the heart. So as I told you before, veins carry blood towards the heart. Alright, veins carry blood towards the heart. So there are 2 main veins which carry blood into the heart. So you have to remember, there are 2 main veins that we are discussing here which carries blood into the heart. So these 2 main veins are called superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. Superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. So superior vena cava and inferior vena cava are 2 major veins of our body which carries deoxygenated blood into the heart. So specifically into the right atrium. So this superior vena cava and inferior vena cava carries deoxygenated blood into the right atrium. So if we specifically consider superior vena cava, it mainly drains our head and neck and our upper limbs. Alright, so there are deoxygenated blood coming from our brain, our neck area and our upper limbs. So this blood accumulates into the superior vena cava, then it drains into the right atrium. So basically this superior vena cava drains our upper part of the body, head and neck and upper limbs. So if you consider inferior vena cava, inferior vena cava carries blood from our lower limbs and the trunk. So inferior vena cava carries blood from deoxygenated blood from our lower limbs and our trunk into the right atrium. So you have to remember, superior vena cava drains head and neck and our upper limbs into the right atrium, and inferior vena cava drains our lower limbs and the trunk into the right atrium. Alright, so from the superior vena cava, deoxygenated blood enters into the right atrium. Then from the inferior vena cava also, deoxygenated blood enters into the right atrium. So that is the first thing that you have to remember. Then what happens? Now this deoxygenated blood is in the right atrium. Now what happens, Lamai? Now when the right atrium contracts, alright, when right atrium contracts, this blood within the right atrium flows into the right ventricle. So this drained blood into the right atrium, that flows into the right ventricle. Alright. So that occurs through the tricuspid valve. So as I told you, there are 4 valves within the heart. So now we are going to talk about tricuspid valve. So tricuspid valve is situated between right atrium and right ventricle. So this tricuspid valve is situated between right atrium and right ventricle. So what is tricuspid valve? So why is it called this tricuspid? Tricuspid means, Lamai, in this tricuspid valve there are 3 cusps. Alright. So this is consists of 3 cusps. That is why we are calling it tricuspid valve. So it is situated between right atrium and right ventricle. So what is the function of this tricuspid valve? So this tricuspid valve is like a one-way door. Alright. So it is like a door, opens only into one side. Alright. So this prevents backflow of blood into the right atrium. So as I told you, by superior vena cava and inferior vena cava, blood drains into the right atrium. Then from the right atrium, blood passes into the right ventricle through tricuspid valve. So if tricuspid valve is dysfunctioning, or it is the function of the tricuspid valve is impaired, there can be a backflow of blood again into the right atrium. So that disrupts the function of the heart. So what is the function of the tricuspid valve? It prevents backflow of blood again into the right atrium. So it maintains the one-way flow of blood from right atrium to right ventricles. So if the function of this tricuspid valve is impaired, there can be regurgitation of blood back into the right atrium, which will impair the heart functioning. So you remember, tricuspid valve is very important. It prevents backflow of blood. Alright, because this is like a door, open only into the right ventricle. It does not open into the right atrium. This opens only into the right ventricle. Alright, so you have to remember that. Then what happens? So now blood is in the right ventricle. So now you have to remember, this is deoxygenated blood, Lamai. That is why I draw these marks in purple color. So to indicate this is deoxygenated blood. Alright. So in this picture also, Lamai, you can see these are colored in blue color, and this is also in purple color. That is to indicate these parts of the heart and these blood vessels carry deoxygenated blood. Alright. So these are deoxygenated blood. Okay. Now what happens? Now when the blood is within the right ventricle, now right ventricle contraction occurs. So right ventricular contraction, that pumps blood into the pulmonary artery. So this blood vessel is called pulmonary artery. So by the contraction of right ventricle, it carries blood into the pulmonary artery. That occurs through pulmonary valve. So now this is the second valve. So first valve is tricuspid valve, situated between right atrium and right ventricle. Now we are going to talk about another valve, that is called pulmonary valve. So pulmonary valve is situated between pulmonary artery and right ventricle. So this is the pulmonary artery, this is the right ventricle. So pulmonary valve is situated between pulmonary artery and right ventricle. So what is the function of pulmonary valve? That is also similar to the tricuspid valve, Lamai. So the function of pulmonary valve is prevent backflow of blood into the right ventricle. So basically all these valves have the same function, which is to prevent backflow of blood. So all these valves are act as a one-way valve which will keep the unidirectional flow of blood through the heart. So always there is a unidirectional flow of blood through the heart. So to keep this unidirectional flow, these valves are very important. So function of all these heart valves are similar, that is to maintain unidirectional flow of blood through the heart. So basically this pulmonary valve prevents backflow of blood into the right ventricle. Once this right ventricle is contracted through the pulmonary valve, blood passes into the pulmonary artery. So in the beginning of this video, I mentioned there is one artery in our body which carries deoxygenated blood. Now you know what is it, right? So here, as I mentioned, these blood are deoxygenated blood. Alright, so superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, all these major veins carry deoxygenated blood into the right atrium. Then this deoxygenated blood passes into the right ventricles. So then this deoxygenated blood is pumped into the pulmonary artery. So even if this is an artery, this pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood. So that is a special point, because usually arteries carry oxygenated blood, but here pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood, right? So that you have to remember. So then what happens? So after entering the pulmonary artery, blood enters into the lungs. Alright, so pulmonary means that is related to lungs. Alright, so that you have to remember: pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein. So pulmonary, that term pulmonary is related to lungs. Alright, so pulmonary artery carries blood into the lungs. So what happens at lungs? There is a very important process occurs within our lungs, which is oxygenation of deoxygenated blood. So as we know, this pulmonary artery contains deoxygenated blood. Then this deoxygenated blood passes into the lungs. Then at lungs, what happens is, that is called oxygenation of blood. So that is very important, because as I told you, oxygen and nutrients are required for the survival of our cells. So oxygenation of blood occurs at lungs. Now there is oxygenated blood. Then this oxygenated blood, so I am drawing this in red color, alright. So this is oxygenated blood. Then oxygenated blood enters into the pulmonary vein, alright. So these are branches of pulmonary vein, alright. There are 4 branches of pulmonary vein. So these branches opened into the left atrium, alright. So at lungs, oxygenation of blood occurs. Then this oxygenated blood enters into the left atrium via pulmonary veins. So these are the branches of pulmonary veins. Here there are 2 branches. There are 2 branches. So actually in pulmonary vein there are main 2 branches. Then those 2 branches divide into 2 branches and enters into the left atrium. Then what happens? When the left atrium contracts, this oxygenated blood passes into the left ventricle through mitral valve. So between right atrium and right ventricle there is tricuspid valve. Between left atrium and left ventricle there is mitral valve. This is also called bicuspid valve because it has 2 cusps. So here this is called tricuspid valve because it consists of 3 cusps. But here mitral valve also called bicuspid valve because it has only 2 cusps. Alright. So what is the function of mitral valve? So as I told you, all 4 heart valves has the same function, which is prevent backflow of blood and maintain a unidirectional blood flow through the heart. So similarly, this mitral valve opens only into the left ventricle, so it prevents backflow of blood into the left atrium. Alright, so then what happens at left ventricle? So this is also very important. When the left ventricle contracts, this oxygenated blood enters into the aorta. This oxygenated blood, when the left ventricle contracts, enters into the aorta. Alright. So this occurs through aortic valve. So here there is pulmonary valve between pulmonary artery and right ventricle. Here there is aortic valve between aorta and left ventricle. So what is the function? It maintains the unidirectional flow and it prevents backflow of blood. Alright. So then when the blood enters into the aorta, then aorta divides into various branches. So this is ascending aorta, arch of the aorta, then descending aorta, then this aorta branched into various branch and supply vital organs and all the cells of our body. So that is very important. So by left ventricle, it pumps blood into the whole body. So if you consider right ventricle and left ventricle, this left ventricular wall is thicker than right ventricular wall. So if you consider, so if this is the right ventricular wall, this is the left ventricular wall. So as you can clearly see, the thickness of the left ventricular wall is higher than that of the right ventricle. So left ventricular wall is thicker. What is the reason for that? Because Lamai, here right ventricle only have to pump blood into the lungs. So this right ventricle pumps blood into the lungs. So the distance is short. That is a short distance. But if you consider the left ventricle have to pump blood through the whole body, through aorta. Because of that, the left ventricle has to have a great power than right ventricle. Because of that, the thickness of the left ventricular wall is higher than that of the right ventricle. So basically pressure within the left ventricle is also high. Alright. So there is a high muscle bulk in left ventricle. Because of that, thickness of the ventricular wall is higher than right ventricular wall. Here pressure is high, thickness of the wall is high because it has to pump blood through our body. Then what is the function of this septum? So this is called interventricular septum. Here there is a septum called interatrial septum. Interatrial septum means the septum between left atrium and right atrium. Intraventricular septum means septum between left ventricle and right ventricle. So what is the function of this heart septum? So as you can clearly see here, Lamai, this side of the heart contain deoxygenated blood, which is indicated by this blue color. But here, this part of the heart, which means left side of the heart, contain oxygenated blood. So we have to provide our body cells this oxygenated blood. So if there is mixing of this oxygenated and deoxygenated blood, that is no use, right? So that impairs the function of the heart. That is not correct. So because of that, heart is separated into two compartments by the septum. Interventricular septum divides ventricles into left and right. Interatrial septum divides it into left atrium and right atrium. By this, it prevents mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. So right side of the heart contain deoxygenated blood, left side of the heart contain oxygenated blood. So this septum of the heart prevents mixing of these oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Mammalian heart has 4 chambers: right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium and left ventricle. And there are 4 heart valves: tricuspid valve, pulmonary valve, mitral valve and aortic valve. So which maintains unidirectional flow of blood through heart. And you have to remember, this aortic valve and pulmonary valve are called semilunar valves because of their shape. Because of their shape, this aortic valve and pulmonary valve are commonly called semilunar valves. When we were talking about this tricuspid and mitral valve, I told you these valves open only into the only towards the left ventricle. So what is the reason for that? As you can see here, so these muscles, there are muscles of the right ventricle. Consider these two muscles. These muscles are called papillary muscles. So here also there are papillary muscles. So there is some structures which connect these tricuspid valve, cusps of these valves into these papillary muscles. Alright, so these are papillary muscles, and there is a tendon-like structures connect these papillary muscles to cusps of these valves. So these structures are called chordae tendinae. These are called chordae tendinae or tendon cords. So what is the function of this chordae tendinae? It makes sure that these valves opens only towards the ventricle. Alright, so this chordae tendinae makes sure this tricuspid valve and bicuspid or mitral valve opens only into the ventricles. It prevents opening of these valves into the atriums. Alright, so that is important. So these are papillary muscles. These papillary muscles connect these chordae tendinae into the cusp of these tricuspid and mitral valve that maintains, which makes sure opening of these valves only occurs into the ventricles, not to the opposite sides. So in this video we have discussed the structure of the mammalian heart and trace of blood through human heart. If you like more lessons like this, please comment below and subscribe to our YouTube channel.